and we are at Drop That Brush, where we try to help non-artists become artists. At the end of the video, I will show you some tips and tricks to keep your brushes in great shape. A brush. The tip, the belly of the brush, I actually paint pretty much everything on the belly of the brush. Ferrule, the crimp, and the handle. You can have a million brushes, but you don't even know what any of them does. Learning one brush, just one. I change from this. They are totally different marks. How much water you have to require. But if I learned one brush, know what its characteristics are. There are 3 kinds of brushes. Basic brushes are synthetic, mixed, which I don't have, and I have one natural hair brush, which is so expensive I don't even want to use. So let's talk about each one. Synthetic it lasts a long time. It's the cheapest. Most of them have great points, and the points last forever. It does what I want it to do, whereas this may not do what I want it to do. So when you are learning, a synthetic, inexpensive brush really is the best bet. It allows me to have control. Natural hair. They are very, very soft. They're wonderful for layering. Bouncy. This one, it will actually do all kinds of odd things like that. It is not user-friendly brush for beginners. I really wouldn't spend the money on it, and I think that it would be difficult for you to learn with this. This one that I'm suggesting, but it handles very similar for like half the price of the natural hair brush. Tips wear out pretty quickly. This one, the tips wear out more than this one, but they last for a long time. So I personally believe that is the main brush. This is a secondary brush, and that's enough. The mixed hair is just a mixture. They're a little bit more springy, but they hold a lot of water, and that's why you pay for that. Watercolor should never be paint very flat. There's no movement of the water. So I always have a tilt of the board so that the water will come through. It does not hold as much water. So I'm going to show you what it does. I want to go as far as I can before I have to load up again. So I can get about here, and I'm starting to kind of get little speckles. For most shapes, that's not bad. This is a synthetic brush, but it's fake squirrel hairs. So let's try this one. Now you can see I can get a long ways for this. Look at that. And so it's nice to use for skies, or if you're doing a big wash. It just is quick. I don't have to dip and dip and dip. I can just go straight down, and I have all this water. So look at how big that is. Here is natural brush. And it's even a little bit more juicier. And so you can see this is synthetic. I can make that much for my fake squirrel hair brush, or this is a natural. But for beginners, these are hard to handle. And I mean that sincerely. It does what it wants to do. Oh, look at that. I've got some blossoms. You know what I do when there's blossoms? I just make fun. And so if you're going to do the more expensive brush, I think you should use only that brush so you know it. If you want the $11 brush, which works fine, but learn that one. Don't be going back and forth between a different million brushes, because you won't understand what your brush will do. So I actually use acrylic brushes when I'm pulling out information, because a lot of people have acrylics. And they think, well, can I use it? Maybe. Some of the acrylic brushes are pretty soft, but most of them aren't. They're kind of rough with the paper. Watercolor brushes, we don't destroy the paper. That's basically the main reason. But why would I listed this. This is an acrylic brush, And why would I use this? Well, number one, it has a really beautiful tight point. So what I'm able to do, I can make, now I want you to see what I'm doing. I'm sitting it, tapping it, and then I'm squeezing to make those hairs make it tight. I'm sitting straight up, and I'm able to pull things like leaves. If all you can afford is these two, these are the guys. They're the ones that you want. I use this when I don't want as much control. I just kind of move it around. Just play. This is really nice for organic shapes. I use it a lot in hair, believe it or not. It has a lot more water, so man, I can just paint and paint and paint. They're about $25 approximately. They are a lovely brush, and it kind of has the same feeling as this without the huge price. It is harder to use, whereas these, for a beginner, they're the bomb. I kind of want to be not in the lines per se, but at least you want to be able to control it, and it does take a little bit of time to learn how to control it. Now, there's all kinds of brush shapes. A cat's eye, round, quill, a flat brush. Kind of depends upon what you're going to paint. So I do organic shapes, people, trees, flowers. Basically, when you're handling this, you're going to use the edge of the brush. So for ground, you're going to use the belly of the brush, like this. For here, you're not going to do it this way. What you actually want to do is use the side of the brush, and it's funny because I can do the same kind of marks, and so you can go sideways and also have a very natural movement of the brush. As long as you spend time with that brush, if that's the one you want to do and you spend your time with it, you will know what that'll do. I have all these brushes, Lord, another brush, and oh, I have one of these brushes, and you know what the reality is? I wind up going right back this guy. So, you know, you can spend a lot of money on brushes. I would see in a class and I would say, okay, look at how good they paint. Oh, I love their paintings. It must be the brush. And I would spend $100, $150 on their brushes thinking that will make me a better painter. And guess what? It didn't. Big shock there. You will become a better painter when you handle the brush a lot. So the difference between a quill and a round is this holds much more water. Not all quills have a good point, so that's something to note. So you guys saw how much wash I could do with this, able to before I have to dip in. That's pretty good. Okay, so that's the amount of paint that this will produce. So then you now have to dip into it, muck with it, and do some more. And then when I'm doing this, what happens is, when we're beginning, now look, then I have these lines, because I'm trying to wait till that gets done. So you can see that line? That's what happens. Now I've got to dip again. Now if I'm fast enough, then I don't have the line. But it's very easy to get the lines like this. I want to talk about shape. So if I was going to do a shape, you start from the top to the bottom. We don't go back up and play with it. You're over here. Your job is, I want you to see how much water. You do want water. You can see right there, there's water moving. And your job is to not necessarily hit every line. Okay, I need some more paint. But to make a nice wash. How do I get a nice wash? Now you can see, I'm still on the belly of the brush. Now right here, I may go up and quickly add that in. But mostly do that. Now what do you see? Well, I didn't hit the lines. Well, a couple of things I can do. So that maybe it's really important that we hit the lines. I can do this and just soften an edge. That's one possibility. God, I can't even get in the lines. So I'm over here. Okay, now I'm going to come back. And what happens is, is you see where you did the outline? It shows. And that's a problem. That does not look pretty. That looks like you outlined it. Whereas if I hold my brush with the belly of the brush and move my brush this way and down, and sometimes I do it this way, and I keep moving my brush, that gives you a much better mark. Things that are important that we have to have a little perfect mind would be things like eyes, maybe the eyelashes of the eyes, stamen of a flower. But the majority of your painting will be done with washes, and they'll be bigger. Why do I need a million brushes or not? Obviously, this stuff doesn't help. That's not good for us for a good wash. So here's a line with this one. Okay, those are pretty nice marks. Okay, here's another one. Okay, that's not bad. I've got my finger here. Let me tell you something. I want you to look. The marks aren't any bigger or really smaller. So why would I buy a million brushes? I can use one brush, learn that brush, have a good tip, and it does all that. Anyway, so I just wanted to show you the difference between having a little small brush and what happens versus brush and why you need one brush. My 3 brushes are, if all you can afford is this, that's okay. This actually is fine. Synthetic, $12, and it does well. If you do nothing else, this is the guy. If you can afford another, I would do a flat acrylic. I don't actually paint with this. I just use things to pull out or to move paint. This is all you need to start. If you can afford the last one, I would spend more time with synthetic. This I would use as if I had a big wash. It's about $26. But I don't know about you, but here I am. I've got this big white piece of paper, and now I'm scared. For fear I'm gonna mess it up, right? Biggest things that helps me. I want to mess the paper up first because then it's already messed up. I try to use, you know, a little red or a little yellow. You know what? Because in reality, it doesn't actually show. So if I do this, or even just throw a line, just that, it's so light, I can do it. But I figure I've already messed up the paper. Now, can't do anything worse, right? I just did that. That was awful. And I can let it go. Not just painting it, but actually just playing. If you bought that awful cheap paper, using your brushes on the awful paper isn't a good place to use it. I want to see what my brush will do. So if I do this mark, and there. All right, that was interesting. Let me try another mark. What if I do pull it? What happens when I pull it? What happens if I practice doing straight lines? Can I make it a curved line? What you want to do is look at a shape and say, okay, how can I get that shape? Actually do this and look for see how. Now you can come at the end and quickly try to clean it up a little if you need to. But do the middle first and then fix. So if I had a shape up here, is that going to be important or not? If it's not, I let it go. It does not matter. I believe that you will learn faster with one brush than having 25. How do you know if the tip is good? First off, you have to get it wet. If I'm looking at a brush and it looks like that, we don't know if that's a good tip or a bad tip. So I have to put water on it, and then I look. I'm not sure. So then I have to paint with it to tell you. Okay, that's not a great tip. Let's see how this is. This one, what color so you can see it. Now, that size brush, almost similar, my regular brush. So why do I have to have this brush and everyone in between and this one? It's really not necessary. I use tape for a lot of things. You know, you can buy all this cool tape at Walmart, And so I find tape and I mark my brush so I know whose it is or if I loan it to somebody else. I use blue tape to cover because it actually is uncomfortable. So I will actually keep this covered with blue tape, and that will protect me from another thing you can do tape with. This is pretty old. It's an old brush. You can't even buy it anymore. Green garden tape, and that means when that's sitting in the water, it doesn't destroy the glue between the ferrule to the brush. We are on an art journey together, so please like, subscribe. When you are playing and you don't know what to do, drop that brush. We're going to be doing paint and palette next week, so I will see you then. Bye.